Welcome to Forest Namesake. The story that you're about to hear is a true one, and it's titled Vacation in the West. I've always loved traveling and seeing new places. When I was around 8 or 9 years old, my dad had a job that required him to travel to different states. As we're a family that doesn't like to be apart, we went with him. Though I can't recall everything, I do have some fond memories of those trips. For regular vacations, we would often go to the beach. For those who know me, I'm not a beach person, as the deepness of the ocean scares me, not to mention some creatures that live within it. I'm also not a strong swimmer. I'd much rather just sit and listen to the sound of the waves and seagulls and watch the beautiful ocean swell. When I was in my mid-20s, we were blessed to be able to see other states on our 2 road trip vacations. The last road trip we, my parents, and 2 younger siblings took was in June of 2019. We traveled west from our state of Texas. The first state we drove through was New Mexico. I remember there were a lot of plateaus. It sort of resembled tiny mountains, tiny flat mountains. We then went to Arizona. Our first stop was the Petrified Forest National Park. It was neat seeing very old tree stumps and logs that were reddish in color. There was also a visitor center on the premises where one could buy pretty rocks, or petrified rocks. Our hotel was almost 2 hours away in Flagstaff, Arizona, a pretty city of pine trees and mountains in the distance. About an hour and a half away was the place I was most looking forward to seeing, the Grand Canyon. We made reservations for a Jeep tour. A Navajo man took our family and maybe 2 more families in the Jeep, and off we went. The views of the canyon were breathtaking. Pictures don't do it justice. I never knew just how large it was, nor that it had such beautiful shades of blue, pink, and red. As a Christian, I know the many layers were caused by the great flood mentioned in the Bible. Though such a catastrophic event, God made the beautiful Grand Canyon out of it. The driver talked about the history of the park as well as the Navajo who live in the area. In fact, Arizona has the largest Navajo population of all the United States. He prayed in his native tongue, but a prayer to his spirit, not to God. I was sad that he didn't know Jesus. Soon after, he made several stops for us to get out and take pictures. I don't see how anyone can say there isn't a God when they see such beauty and detail. It was so stunning. I'll never forget the vastness of the Grand Canyon. The next state we visited was Utah to see Zion National Park. The rugged red-brown mountains were just gorgeous. There were several trails available. I think we took one that was among the easiest as we're not used to hiking. There was a pretty stream we followed for a while before climbing higher and higher. It was very hot, and while I wanted to rest, it was hard to stop as the path was narrow and there were other hikers behind us. We came upon a narrow cave, and it was nice to get in the shade for a bit until we moved on so others could come in the cave too. After the hike, there were trolleys available to see other sights. I was very overheated and feeling nauseous. The bumpy ride increased my queasiness. Thankfully, my mom had some sort of bag available for me. To my embarrassment, I threw up. The trolley made its first quick stop and we got off. I threw up again and found a bench to sit on. I was humiliated as there were people hanging around the benches. I was grateful, though, that we were under a pavilion, shielding us from the scorching sun. To my surprise, I heard my sister exclaim that there was a wild turkey. Sure enough, it came within maybe 3 feet of me. We decided not to take the next trolley so that I could rest. While I half lay on a bench, my parents trekked not too far to see what other views there were. They came back saying there was a pretty waterfall. I was feeling a bit better, so I walked a little ways with them to see a tall waterfall among the red mountains. Many people were splashing around in the pond or just sitting on the rocks. Though I was unwell, I don't regret going to the park. It was a joy seeing more of God's creation than I'd never viewed before. After Utah, we journeyed to Nevada. The landscape was a variation of mountains and flatlands. We visited the Great Basin National Park. These mountains were different from the red rocks in Zion. These had snow on them. At the visitor center, my mom was the one this time who didn't feel well. The elevation was getting to her. We were on a little pretty trail and met an older lady. When my mom explained that she was feeling lightheaded, the woman said she needed to drink a lot of water. She spoke the truth, and my mom soon felt a lot better. We drove around the basin, and it felt like we were the only ones out there. There were just miles of road and mountains in the distance. We spent the night at a retreat that had several lodges to stay in. There was nothing but the hosts, guests, and mountains around us, including what looked like caves up high. It was very peaceful and pretty there. I was disappointed we couldn't stay longer. On the way back to Texas, we stopped and stayed 2 days in Santa Fe, New Mexico's capital. It felt like we were in what Mexico might look like. There were many Pueblo-style buildings. Even our hotel had similar architecture. The city is known for art. Many artists sell paintings under their canopies, and Native Americans sit in a row under a building's long roof. It was hard finding anything to buy for a decent price. However, my mom was able to purchase 2 small bird paintings. I think they were magnets. I remember the city had a sort of sad feeling to it, an oppression. There were signs of people really needing Jesus there, but it was still cool to walk around Santa Fe. Finally was a long ride back home. I took a few pictures on my iPad I had then, and I hope you enjoyed seeing them. That trip was among my favorites with my family, and I'm thankful to God for the experience. It's been a long time since we've traveled due to finances, my siblings' work schedules, etc., etc. But I hope and pray to have the opportunity to see new places again. I'd really like to see the Northeast. Have you been to the places I mentioned? What are your favorite vacations you've been on? Hope you've enjoyed the story. As my mom mentioned, this is a new series that we're doing, and if you'd like to submit a true story of your own, please send us an email at forhisnamesake106@gmail.com, and the criteria needed for your true story will be in the description box below. Have a blessed day. Bye!